The park ranger's truck pulled up in a cloud of dust, its official seal gleaming under the relentless mountain sun. Two officers, one a seasoned veteran named Officer Evans and his younger partner, approached the man standing calmly beside his worn backpack. The power dynamic was etched into the scene. The uniformed authorities with their clipboards and radios, and the solitary black hiker, his face beaded with honest sweat. Evans's eyes swept over the man's faded gear and his deeply brown skin, a contrast to the pale families picnicking nearby. "Let's see your backcountry permit," Evans said, his voice a low, skeptical rumble. He was about to question the validity of a document, completely unaware that the man before him was the very cartographer who had drafted the official trail map for the entire state park system. "This permit number seems irregular," Evans stated, making a show of radioing it in to the main station. Static crackled back. "System's slow today. You understand? We have to be careful. Lots of folks try to forge these." The implication was a familiar, wearying weight on Elijah's shoulders. He thought of the countless hours he'd spent in these very mountains, mapping every switchback and water source with painstaking precision. He simply nodded, his hands resting at his sides, his breathing even. "The mountain doesn't care about your uniform," he reminded himself, a mantra from his first solo expedition. "It only respects preparation." He watched a hawk circle high above, a symbol of the freedom he'd come here to find. The delay stretched. The sun beat down. A family with two small children, their hike interrupted by the commotion, grew anxious. "Are the trails safe, officer?" the mother asked, eyeing the darkening clouds gathering over the peaks. Evans, flustered by the failing radio and the growing audience, gave a vague reassurance. It was then that the younger child pointed at a narrow, unmarked trailhead barely visible behind a granite outcrop. "Daddy, what's that path?" Evans frowned. "That's not on the map. It's unstable. Probably leads to a dead end." Elijah, who had remained silent, took a single calm step forward. He didn't look at Evans. He addressed the worried father. "That's the old courier path," he said, his voice quiet but carrying. "It is the safest and quickest route back to the main visitor center with this weather moving in. It drops 500 feet in elevation over a half-mile, bypassing the exposed ridge entirely." He then described the exact location of a seasonal spring and a distinctive lightning-struck pine that marked the halfway point. This was his hidden skill, revealed not through argument, but through an intimate, undeniable knowledge of the land that dwarfed the officer's bureaucratic authority. Evans's face flushed. His authority was evaporating in the thin mountain air. He moved closer to Elijah, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Look, I can clear this up, a misunderstanding. How about I escort you down myself? We can call it a guided tour. I'll even waive the permit fee for your trouble." He was trying to buy Elijah's compliance, to co-opt his expertise into a personal favor. Elijah looked from the officer's desperate face to the anxious family. "No," he said, the word as solid as the granite beneath their feet. "You don't get to offer me a guided tour of my own home. I am not the one who is lost here." At that moment, a second vehicle, a Park Service Jeep, sped into the clearing. The chief park ranger, a woman named Flores, jumped out, her face a mixture of urgency and awe. "Evans, stand down," she commanded. She then turned to Elijah, her demeanor shifting to one of profound respect. "Mr. Adebayo, the system flagged your name, not your permit. We've been trying to reach you. There's a rockfall on the eastern loop. We need your topographic surveys for the emergency reroute." The revelation was complete. The backstory tumbling from Chief Ranger Flores's lips was that Elijah Adebayo wasn't just a hiker. He was a legendary geographer and the primary author of the Adebayo series of topographic maps used by every ranger in the state. Officer Evans, who had doubted his permit, was exposed as a man whose bias had blinded him to the presence of a living legend. He was immediately relieved of his field duties. The story, however, did not end with a simple dismissal. A humbled Officer Evans, after completing a mandatory leave and bias training, requested a meeting with Elijah. He didn't offer excuses. He brought a proposal for a new community outreach program, Trail Stewards, which would partner experienced adventurers from diverse backgrounds with the Park Service to lead workshops on wilderness safety and map reading for inner-city youth. He asked Elijah to be its founding advisor. "You know these mountains better than anyone," Evans said, the words sounding newly learned. "I want to help others see that this wilderness belongs to them too." The man who had questioned his right to be there was now advocating for his vision of inclusive access. The underdog had not just proven his right to be on the trail, he had helped build a new path for others to follow. It proves that the loudest authority can be silenced by the quietest truth, and that the deepest expertise often wears the most unassuming disguise. This story shows that the map is not the territory, and true belonging is written not on a permit, but in the soul. If this story about hidden potential and transformative justice touched you, subscribe for more tales of dignity and discovery.